Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Fetzer and Ms. Clark are out of town this evening, so they're going to be excused. That means you have to put up with me. Hopefully that won't be too painful. I don't. Does anybody have any announcements? I'm not aware of any.
Executive session for 30 minutes.
Oh, yes, we did meet for approximately 34 minutes in executive session prior to the meeting to discuss personnel matters. Thank you. So with that, are there any comments to the board on an agenda item from either those present or online?
There don't appear to be any online. For those of you attending online, if you're interested in making a comment to the board, we ask that you visit our website at www.lasd.us and click on the board meeting announcement and click on the survey link. Enter your name, your address, and your comment, and that'll be read later in the meeting. So back to you, Mr. Heath.
All right. We'll move to board representative comments and we'll just go down the road. Start with you, Chris.
Sure. Thank you. Evening, everyone. School year is getting into full swing. We're very excited not just to have more of our kids back in schools, but to have some more events that are coming up. We've got the open houses begin next Tuesday. So we've got our third grade open house next Tuesday night. And we've got the Dragon Dash, which is now going to take place in the fall. And so we'll be going in the afternoon. Lintown will be going in the morning. So that'll be exciting to do that. Also, our PSA was kind enough. We had our first staff appreciation day today. So they brought in all these snacks. It was really, really nice. They set up the faculty room very nicely, and the teachers were able to pop in and out and enjoy that. I want to talk just a little bit here. We had a very challenging start to our school year. And I want to talk to you about how some of our staff have done some really amazing things. So as you know, there was one of our students who passed away over the summer. And immediately my guidance counselor and social worker reached out, and we were talking about what we could do to support his friends and support the other kids in the school. And then right before school started, our library aide passed away. And all the students knew her as well. And so we were talking about this, and my guidance counselor and social worker came up with the idea to use this book called The Invisible String. I don't know if you've ever heard of the book or seen the book, but it basically talks about those that we love, how we're connected by this invisible string. No matter where we go, what we do in life, we're connected by that. So if you're afraid in your room in a thunderstorm, there's a string between your mom next door and you. If you are sad because your aunt moved away, there's still a string between you and your aunt. And in some cases, if someone you knew passed away, there's still that love string that connects you. And so we started talking about what we could do with this. And it also got us thinking about, our kids that weren't in school last year, and maybe some of the things they're feeling and transitioning back. So they used the book as a guide, and our librarian was kind enough to give us the first cycle of library classes. And we read the book with every class of kids, and we talked about that invisible string, and some amazing things came up. They started talking about grandparents who had passed away, pets that passed away, being afraid of being away from mom, all these kinds of things. And not only were we able to process it with them, but also it sort of let us know who might need a little more attention at the beginning of the year. And so it really turned into an amazing opportunity for the kids to kind of express some of their worries and concerns, and for our counselor and social worker to be able to address those. They did an absolutely amazing job with it. On top of that, the students, friends of Landon who had passed away, they did a special session with him as well and put together a memory book that was given to his parents at his memorial service a few weeks ago. So some really amazing things that happened there. Additionally, I just wanted to share that the passing of Mrs. Underhill as well. The family had asked that donations be made. Amy's from Upper New York State, and be made to a library up there. And we found out that our local community donated more than $6,000 to the library in her memory. And they're actually remodeling their children's section and added an interactive nook for children. And they're going to name this nook after Mrs. Underhill. So that was very, very kind. So again, out of difficulty came opportunity for us to meet the needs of our kids and talk with them, and for our staff to come together and support each other and support Amy's family. And I just want to give all the thanks in the world to our counselor, social worker, and librarian for taking the lead on that. Thank you.
So some similarities at the beginning of what Chris shared. At Lintown, we have a Dragon Dash coming up next Friday. So the kids have been excited, prepping for it in gym class. Mr. Lagerman's been building up their endurance with running, working on just teaching them about increasing their heart rate and the positives that come from that. A couple kids have challenged him to races during gym just to try to get their heart racing faster and faster. He's working on push-ups with them too, which he's pumped and excited. He's got a lot of great ideas coming from the middle school. This is his first year at Lintown. So I think he's getting caught up in the Dragon Dash excitement too. We're excited for that next Friday, and we're able to use the track at the Falling Complex, which is an awesome venue just to have that, give everybody a ton of space to spread out and the kids a ton of room as they have their 15 minutes on the track. We also had staff appreciation snacks today from the PSA, which is a great way to kick off the day. Brought a lot of smiles on people's faces, and as they had those stressful moments throughout the day, they snuck in, grabbed some chocolate and snacks, and it kept them going. We also have an assembly on Monday. We're very fortunate that one of the members of our PSA is also works at the Wise Center for Performing Arts at Bucknell. And she reached out last spring about this group, that in the contract, they have the opportunity that if it's available to perform in a local school or come out to a local school, that they would do so. So we've been working on that. They just got into the country the last few days, and we've been able to iron out all the details, but it's a 25-person group from Bali that they're bringing in the traditional dress, makeup, and instruments. So we're excited for that. And they gave us some study guides that they've been using in music classes just to prepare the kids for what they may see in the style of music. And I know Mr. Zeke's been excited about the response he's gotten from the kids in music leading up to this. And then the last thing we just found out today, Mrs. Riddle, who's a 4th grade teacher, on Instagram, she put her name in for this contest, and she found out she won. It's a $500 24-plant hydroponic self-watering, self-fertilizing lettuce grow farm stand. I tried to do it in one breath, but I couldn't do it. So she's super pumped and excited, just the opportunities for our kids that this will bring. She was able to, as she applied for it, she described how she will weave it into the Native American unit that the kids will be doing in 4th grade. And also it's throughout the year, and there are 300 different types of seeds she's able to choose from to grow, to keep it going all throughout the year. Some are the outdoor plants, some are indoor. And she felt even giving kids jobs and responsibilities. Some kids, that's something they'll really get into. So she's super excited about that. We just found out those should be arriving in the next week or two. So I'll definitely be giving updates on that. And I think another thing, like Chris said, it's been, the start of the year is always busy, always fast paced, always challenging. And it's been incredible, even little things like this, seeing our staff continue to think, what else can we do? How can we push ourselves? What opportunities can we give our students? They never stop. They're continuing to think, continuing to dream big, and it's awesome to see different things that come about from that. That will pass it on to George.
Thank you. And I would agree with that. And in addition to looking for those other opportunities for the students, the teachers are reaching out to each other to help each other along those lines. I know that Mrs. Boyer, Mrs. Tidy have been planning and executing training sessions for other staff members to help them with technical issues with Canvas or things like that, or to make them able to grow Canvas pages for their kids. And you'll see in the next couple of board meetings some requests for field trips for middle school teachers, local trips, but just opportunities to give kids a chance to do things in the real world outside of the school building, which we're grateful for. The middle school, a lot of it for the experience for the kids is trying different things. It's exploring what you like, what you don't like. I mentioned at the last meeting about our clubs and activities are up and running. The 400 and however many kids we have are all participating in that. A lot of different opportunities, all provided by the teachers. In addition to the clubs and activities where kids get a chance to change something every marking period, we're offering 5 different interscholastic, I'll call them, athletic opportunities, and cross country for boys and girls, softball, football, and cheerleading. And we have about 125 kids, which is more than a quarter of our population signed up for those activities. Our music ensembles, band, orchestra, chorus, started last week, and we have just under 240 kids participating in those. So that's more than half of the student population. So being able to offer the opportunities for the kids is outstanding, but even better is the kids taking advantage of those opportunities. So we're really grateful to be able to provide the kids those chances. Last thing I will say, and we're still in the planning stages of how we're going to do this. Mark your calendar for the 17th of September. It's the first middle school dance in 2 years. So be excited about that. If you're available, yeah, 7 to 9, 7 to 9.
All right, good evening, everyone. At the high school this week, we had pictures from Life Touch, so they were able to come in and photograph all the students. So that went quite seamlessly in our auditorium. Along with those pictures, the yearbook has been moving around now with their cameras and being able to photograph some good engaging things within the school and throughout the different departments. One thing especially that I saw them photographing at one point this week was the coffee cart. So the coffee cart is up and running. So I had an awesome cup with marshmallows delivered to it the other day. So that was really enjoyable to see through some of our learning support students. The other thing is we're moving towards a automated system with absences. So the Psba system, which is like financial information system, we are now moving into that with the high school. So Dr. Fairchild came in and was able to deliver that to a lot of the staff, explain all the things that we're going to be going into it. So through Psba, they'll be able to put their timesheets into that. They'll be able to basically put their hours there, and Ms. Reber and I will be able to approve them. In addition to timesheets, there's also absences that will be able to be submitted through that, and it will make for a more seamless process and easier for us as we go through that with checks and balances.
And it also gets rid of triplicate forms, which I know some of you are just as happy about as, I said, we've got a new high school, the bypass, is being built, going paperless in Lewisburg, that could be the trifecta. I think the theme here that we've heard from all 4 buildings are just opportunities. And so being able to say, that our students have some opportunities again this year that they haven't been able to have in the past. Things like senior service, being able to help out in the other buildings or other volunteer information, some local field trips that are able to take place. That sense of normalcy from a regular year, but also more importantly, those things that really enhance what we're doing and giving those real world application. And, sometimes the student that might not get it in the classroom, sometimes being able to see it in action, see it in a different light or manner, that's what makes the connection for them, or engages them more. So I'm just so happy that we're able to do those things. Jostens came in today and met with our seniors. So Virginia, if you do not have 2 graduation packets at home, they are in a backpack. So they gave the information on everything about ordering caps and gowns. And I think, the students were absolutely they're always really good with their behavior and we always get complimented on it, but it never feels to me like this is the one where I will always feel like the seniors are like, whoa, this maybe is like a real thing. It's getting real. Hopefully we'll be able to, we have the tentative date, but we have to wait to just finalize a couple of things yet. So hopefully we'll be able to announce that here in the next week or so as well. The other thing, is I'm sure you all know that this weekend on the 11th, is the 20th year anniversary. And if I would encourage you, when you leave tonight, if you get the opportunity, just to walk down towards the Learning Commons in this main hallway right here past the L. Sue Gemberling, our library aide, has put together an absolutely, I don't even know the word to describe it, but it's a timeline of the day. If you look up at what looks like a decoration or a banner up above, there are the names of every single person whose life was lost that day. We have had some teachers already bringing classes down and having them walk through kind of like a little field trip right here in, and to walk out, Josh and I had walked out into the hallway and to see, 20 some kids at various points in this timeline reading, and these, all of us, it was with our parents, they all know where they were when Kennedy was shot. All of us, it's where were you and what were you doing when 9/11 happened? And so, our kids that are here in the high school, they have no tangible, experience with that because they weren't born yet. But so just, I think the efforts of Mrs. Gemberling, and then also the cooperation of the teachers in their class, our social studies in particular, because we want to make sure that, students aren't being asked to come down, multiple times, but also just kids on their own. I have seen so many kids today just stopping and reading and looking. So I would very much encourage you just to take a look, because it's pretty impressive and very, very powerful and moving, what she did. And we're just very grateful that she did that.
So just really building, I think, on the theme of opportunity, I just wanted to recognize kind of the opportunities that our students have with sports and our community partners. I was reminded as I was schlepping boxes of tennis balls to the middle school for our coach, that we're really fortunate for the partnerships that allow our students to play and have those opportunities. So first, just to highlight the two for our fall sports, Buffalo Valley Rec. John, thank you for that continued partnership. Our students play at the community courts. They practice there. They have matches there. And if the rain ever lets up, we might actually have a full match. I felt so bad for him this afternoon. It was sunny. And then as soon as 4 o'clock rolled on, there the thunder went. And the second one is Becknell. We've had this continued partnership with them to allow our football team to host their home events. And it's not just our football team. It gives our band the opportunity to play, our cheerleaders to be highlighted. And so they're Gina Stockdale and Chad Mason and the Bucknell staff as a whole. We're very fortunate those partnerships, because our community is building and enriching the lives of our students. And that's really important. And so I just wanted to take a moment to kind of highlight those opportunities for our students.
Okay. Select presentations.
Yes.
John, you want to lead us off on that?
Absolutely. So we have Ms. Alyssa Wingenfield here from McClure to talk about the investment grade audit that the board authorized a few months ago. They've been working tirelessly checking out our buildings, and so she's here to present a summary this evening. So I'll turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm Alyssa. I'm an engineer with McClure Company. Been with them for almost 15 years. My presentation's informal, so if you have questions throughout, just feel free to flag me down. Quick background about McClure. We're a 67-year-old construction management firm. We specialize in K through 12 construction projects. We worked with over 80 school districts across the state, as they're highlighted in the photo below. We work with these schools through what's called energy projects. It's state legislation that allows school districts to partner with an energy service company like McClure to improve their buildings, leveraging wasted utility dollars. So that's really the goal of this project. In return, McClure has to guarantee a return on investment. We do this in two ways. One, we block the project cost. So if there's any error or omissions, any changes, any issues that arise during construction, it's McClure's responsibility financially. Second, we have to guarantee the performance of these projects. So if we're guaranteeing energy savings, we have to come back a year after the project and make sure those energy savings are realized in utility bills. If there's a shortfall in the savings, McClure is responsible to make those savings right, whether it's in additional energy measures or to make that energy savings full financially. Any questions on that? So if you want to turn to the next slide, we actually started working with the district back in 2016. We did a preliminary energy audit. Last year, the district put out a request for proposals from interested companies to do an HVAC modernization project. We submitted a proposal and were ultimately selected over the summer to complete what's called investment grade audit, which is a detailed energy analysis. We put final costs together, everything's turnkey, and that's what I'm here to share with you this evening. The project's focused on 5 major areas, our energy conservation measures, ECMs, they're listed on the right-hand side. We'll go over all those individually, but before we do that, let's do a quick utility bill analysis. So this is a first step in any energy project. We try to understand the baselines of your buildings, how energy efficient they are, and that tells us whether or not they're good candidates for an energy project. So we look at 2 major metrics. The first is energy use. This is how efficient the buildings are per square foot. The lower the number, the better. For non-air conditioned school, we like to see that about around 50,000. Lower the number, the better. So you can see Kelly and Linton are both great candidates for an energy project. We also look at a second metric called energy cost index. Again, lower the number, the better. The middle school is all electric, so you'll see you're paying a lot more dollars per square foot. We like to see those numbers about $1 or less for natural gas. So that's another target for this project. The high school you'll see is a little bit higher. That's because it has air conditioning and it's used year round. So you use it in your off hours, it's heavily used. So we expect those numbers to be a little elevated. Any questions on that? All right, so now we'll go through those 5 projects that were included in our study. The first is building envelope upgrades. This is really looking at the exoskeleton of your building and preventing any unwanted drafts. So what we do there is we seal around windows and doors where walls and roofs would come together just to create a better seal. And this becomes very important when you're looking at doing an HVAC upgrade. You want to make sure you have a tight building envelope so that you're not creating additional air that you wouldn't necessarily have to. So they're good projects to do together in tandem. The next project is Kelly Elementary School. In front of you, you'll see you have the floor plans there blanked out for the public for security purposes. The purpose here is really just to upgrade your systems. Your equipment at Kelly is from 1995, so it's 26 years old. Give you a perspective, HVAC equipment will last anywhere from 15 to 20 years. So you're on borrowed time on that equipment. You've had some repair needs, some failures, you're having a difficulty finding parts. So it's a really good project to do some modernization of your HVAC equipment. So in the classrooms, we're looking at doing tall vertical heat pumps. You see a photo in the lower right-hand corner of what that installation will look like. They have energy recovery wheels, active dehumidification. We're going to take the bipolar ionization units out of your existing units and relocate them into the new units. So you get to protect that investment that you already had. And so that's for the classrooms. And then for the large group spaces, we'll do rooftop units with variable air volumes, which give individual room control. Any questions on that? Lintown, it's the same type of scenario. That equipment is from 1983 or 1993 when that addition was put on. So you're looking at equipment 28 to 38 years old. So definitely beyond the useful age. You got a lot of years out of that equipment, but now would be a good time to modernize that equipment. So same sort of scenario, tall vertical unit ventilators in the classrooms, like the photo in the bottom right-hand corner, and rooftop units for the large group spaces. Last one is the middle school. This has equipment. There's a typo there. It's 1964 is when it's built. There was addition in 1993. Some majority of the equipment is from 1993. Again, about 27-year-old equipment at the middle school. It is all electric, so that's why you saw the higher energy cost that you're paying there. So what we're recommending here is going to a hot water heating system using natural gas as a fuel source, also air conditioning, those spaces, active dehumidification, and a lot of other efficient upgrades there. We're going to add a boiler room. Currently, you have a storage room that was previously used for your outdoor equipment. Now you have sheds and things, you're not really utilizing those spaces. So we're going to break down a wall in between two storage sheds, install a boiler room with drains and everything that you need to meet code, install 2 new boilers that are condensing. They're about 93 to 98% efficient, and they will provide hot water to your heating system. Any questions there? Okay. So the last one is the maintenance garage. You have a unit in there. It's about from 2004, uses R22 refrigerant. It's at end of life, so we're recommending a replacement in kind, same system type in the maintenance garage as well. And we'll add Hvac Modernization to that unit. So if you turn to slide 10, these are the project financials. You'll see in the rose and gray, these are the 5 projects we just talked about. If you look at the individual columns, each one has a description with breakdowns underneath to each of the major projects, so you can see some sub breakouts of costs. The next column is called project costs. This is completely turnkey project costs. So this includes all the design and pre-construction activities, permitting, soft costs for construction, hard costs for construction, measurement, verification, and commissioning the system once it's installed. So these are complete turnkey numbers. The next column is the 20-year energy savings and operational savings. So these are savings you'll see in your utility bills. These are savings that you'll see in reduced repairs. And then you'll see to the right-hand side, we have 2 columns, program A, program B. We worked with the administration to put these programs together as 2 bookends. Truthfully, you could add a program C and really customize this program to really make this a la carte menu the program that you would like to look at for next summer. If you look under the middle school, you'll see a 4A and 4B were 2 options we looked at for heating and air conditioning in the middle school. The first option is the one we're recommending. That's going to that hot water system and installing those new boilers. The second option we looked at was to do a price compared to what it would be if you would keep the electric heat. You see it's slightly less expensive, but the energy savings are significantly reduced by 1/3. So because the return on investment and the only incremental increase in cost, we are recommending the hot water option for that long-term return on your investment. So if you were to do program A, which includes the building envelope and HVAC modernization at all 3 of your buildings, you're looking at about a $9.9 million project. Over the 20 years, McClure will guarantee a reduction in your utility and operational bills of $1.9 million. Program B is if you would do everything. That program comes in about $10.5 million and a slight increase in your 20-year savings to about $2.1 million guaranteed. Any questions on the project financials? Okay. So slide 11 is next steps. So in terms of next steps, really it's the board's decision. If there's a program here that you want to tackle for next summer, if there's something very interesting to you, kind of what you want to do as a program, we recommend doing that over the next meeting or so to really hone in on what program you like to do. From that point, what we can do is write a contract and work with your administration team and solicitor to kind of iron out the details of that contract. And we're looking for board action sometime in October. What that allows us to do is then take the next month or 2 to really get everybody under subcontract, order the major equipment, get you in the queue for next summer, and also prevent any Q1 price increases. So that's really what we're trying to look out for. We're already told increase in prices of 8% in our industry or more as soon as 2022 rolls around. So if you would like to lock in this price for next summer, we highly encourage you to take board action in October if possible. There's a lot of benefits to this, as I said before, guaranteed project costs, there's no change orders, guaranteed savings. If there's a shortfall, we're responsible for the difference, and will improve your your indoor environment through this HVAC modernization project, and really take that old equipment out and put you in a very good path for the next 30 years. At this point, open up to any questions your team might have.
Nobody?
I mean, my only question would be, you're guaranteeing, but I'm assuming the hot water heating would be natural gas fired.
Correct. Yep.
And in the agreement, that would take into account any potential increase in the price of natural gas.
We are assuming a 3% rate of inflation over gas for the next 20 years. And we're basing it on your gas prices that you're currently paying using 2019 to 2020 as your baseline.
So if that goes up significantly, McClure eats the cost of it.
We guarantee consumption. So we will guarantee the amount of therms of natural gas. And then we multiply that by the rate in the contract. So we can't guarantee what the price will do up or down, but we will guarantee the therms of gas that will be used.
That's a really important distinction.
Yes, consumption is very important to us, that we can measure, that is very scientific. Rate we have no control over, so that's why we have to use that baseline rate. But very good point.
Gas is a better way to go.
No, so I'm saying that all they're guaranteeing is that they will reduce consumption of therms. But if the cost of natural gas goes up significantly, then we don't realize any of these savings. So if you look at the comparison of savings, natural gas would just have to go up like 5% instead of 3% or something like that per year, and you would eat into more than half of those savings. So you'd be at the same level as if you just did the cheaper $500,000 cheaper option and stuck with electric. And we're paying interest on any loans we get. So you have to take into account like the total cost of ownership. So the real cost of taking out that extra $500,000 in the end is like $750,000. So if you just take away like half of the savings and another $250,000, you're cheaper to stick with electric. Especially if we ever get solar, right?
What if electric goes up?
But electric goes up more predictably, right? Gas has been the crazy thing. Like think about anything that could happen with natural gas supply, right? There's,
Just what's happened in the past 10 years.
yeah.
It's been all over the place.
Yeah. So that's, I would want, I mean, like, I will volunteer to do a quick analysis on this just to make the point. Like you just take the interest rate that we know we can get on the bond or loan, whatever you want to call it. You take any, worst case scenario to best case scenario and the fluctuation of natural gas prices. I think this is not as dramatic as what this difference in savings shows. And it's $500,000 more expensive to start. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it just comes down to which fuel you think is most powerful.
Right.
Absolutely.
I have a question about the different descriptions of the buildings.
Yeah.
I just asked Kathy what the bus garage was.
Oh, sorry, the maintenance building. Are you looking at the utility bill slide?
Well, there's bus garage and then there's maintenance building. What page are you on, Jen? I'm sorry, slide 10.
Oh, slide 10. Yes, that should say maintenance garage. I
It's the
apologize.
1E and then the
Yes.
5A.
Oh, okay. I see what you're
So
saying.
1E should say maintenance garage. I apologize. Not the bus garage.
So that's the building envelope upgrades.
Yeah.
So, but that's not like an optional. That's more of a word that's built in. And then the maintenance building HVAC is an optional.
They're all optional. Yep, this is complete a la carte on what you decide to do. So yeah, if you're looking, the 20-year savings doesn't pay for that. So if that's one piece you want to
I
pull
just was
out.
confused. I didn't know what the bus garage was.
Oh, no, it's a very good question.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're good here.
Two different.
Sorry for the typo.
What's four C on here, the convert miscellaneous heat from electric to hot water, was that described?
Yes, absolutely. So you have a lot of cabinet unit heaters, things that heat stairwells, corridors. Currently they're electric. If we wanted to look at the analysis, if you convert them to hot water, what that would look like.
Got it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
good question.
Anybody else have any questions?
Aaron, that would be
Jen.
great. I mean, are we
Jen,
gonna
anything
still do
you
that?
wanna add?
No, no.
Um.
All right. Thanks, Alyssa.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
everybody.
Thank you.
I would, given that we have the timeline that we're given, if you take some time, maybe over the next week to review this material so that we can discuss it again if necessary. Okay, on to board action. We've got, John, you want to discuss the potential for the bond motion?
Absolutely. So as we heard from PFM at our last meeting, we have an opportunity to, at a minimum, refinance our 2014 bonds and save some dough as well. But we also have another opportunity as well to help pay for some of these HVAC modernization and take some of our older equipment out of its afterlife and put in some newer stuff that'll hopefully be a little more efficient. So I would ask that you would authorize us to work with PFM, Piper Sandler, Eckert Siemens, and Finelli and Willett to proceed with the general obligation bonds for refunding our 2014 bonds and financing new funds in an amount to be decided by the board.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Jablonski and a second by Dr. Untitled. Any discussion?
So I was going to say, we do have some scenarios that we have seen here. And I just took an estimate of program A that you saw, Alyssa, kind of as a starting point, if you will. And again, the project, the board, you should take a look at that, see what you're involved. But assuming we go with something like program A, our total cost would be about approximately 9.9 million, of which we, in discussions with the administration here, we would hopefully use some of the new borrowing, our ESSER 3 funds from the feds, which is an eligible use for improving air quality. And then we would make up the reserve, remainder from our capital reserve. And so you see in front of you 5 scenarios there. And what would be involved in funding program A for each of those. And so obviously, the more that we borrow with the reduced interest rates, the less we would have to use from our capital reserve project. And then down below, you see the difference to our current debt service. Presently, the 2014 bonds go out another 18 years. If we did borrow, I've worked with PFM to try and keep the payments level and steady. It would go out an additional 2 years, which is the 20-year maximum that's available for the Giza projects. So you can see that the more that we borrow, there's a slight increase there in our annual debt service costs if we get to 6 or 7 million. And you can see what that translates into millage out there. So for example, in scenario 4, if we borrow an additional $7 million, the millage is 0.00011, which if you have a $200,000 home, that translates roughly into 2.2 additional cents per year in taxes. So a small increase across the board there, but just wanted to give you a sense of perspective on how that would affect our annual debt service. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or discussion on that topic before we take a vote? Any idea when we would have to make the decision, John?
I would recommend that we make the decision. I mean, when we make this decision, we should make it sooner rather than later so that the financial and legal teams know what we would like them to do, and they can go out into the market and get the appropriate rates and conduct the paperwork.
John, how much do we earn on our capital reserve in interest income each year, like as a percentage?
Our present interest rate right now through Susquehanna Community Bank is a very generous 0.5%, so 50 basis points. So other investments that we have, and I don't keep them there, but places like Psba and Pliget are paying approximately 0.01 to 0.02%. So
When you ran these millage differences,
yes,
did you take into account? We don't really draw on our interest, though. We just wouldn't have the capital to spend. So you're just going to continue to draw down.
yes. Now, of course, we would replenish our capital if we had
Right.
remainders at the end of the year, but yeah, yep.
But we lose the potential interest income. I'm just trying to that's something we have to consider because anything could happen, right? A cafeteria floor could lift by a foot.
Yes, absolutely. So that I mean, honestly, in talking about this with Dr. Pollinchuk, we are recommending that perhaps we borrow a little more just to leave a little bit in the capital reserve. We don't want to spend that all the way down to the floor, just in case.
Right.
So John, if we did the 8 million, what would that difference in tax be?
So with that millage, if you have a $200,000 home, that would be an approximately additional 3.4 cents per year in taxes. So rough estimate.
And are you looking for us to select a number tonight? Is that the aim?
That would be ideal if you gave us the direction that you would like us to go, and then we can turn the bond folks loose and they have their marching orders and go from there.
Here's something I would suggest. You're not going to believe this. I'm actually in favor of taking out more debt at very favorable rates. If we do something smart with it, like start investing in solar. Like that's where if we have any, every year when we make a transfer to the capital account that we're not digging into, we could make a conscious decision to say, this is the time to put in a new array or something, because over time, that's going to do a lot more for us than, these smaller savings here. Like that's where I would like to see us because that will allow us to realize savings over time that gain better than inflation because we're not going to be subject to utilities increases.
Yes, if you do borrow a little more, you will have more in your capital account, which means you can put more towards any solar projects or other, emergency.
Or something
repairs.
that's emergent, yeah.
Yes,
right,
exactly,
emergency.
emergent repairs. Yep.
Other thoughts?
We looked at solar over at Suntech, and we all kind of thought that who were sitting at the table that our savings wasn't going to be that much through the course of the years, that we might want to wait. The prices are going to come down to install them.
Yeah, and nobody should install solar right now. Everything's expensive. Like
yeah.
this is,
I see you're thinking down the road.
yeah. You're right now is,
I think
no one should do any construction right now if they can't lock in a price.
Yes.
tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but your point is that if we spend the capital reserve down and don't take out as much loan, if the price falls next month, we don't have the money.
Exactly. We
Right,
need to
yeah,
have the
yeah,
ability
no,
to take
that's wise to
advantage,
do that.
especially if they come up with a new grants program, which every decade or so, right?
Mhm.
There's one of these big solar installation grants programs. We just need to be in a position because we're talking a decade down the road when we're looking at things like this.
And it's actually prime time for that, like we sort of do.
And truth be
Well-
told, right now, borrowing is, I mean, when we took this money out in 2014, we thought interest rates are never going to get lower. This is the best rate. We got to lock it in now. Well, okay, maybe Dr. Jablonski didn't think that, but a lot of people thought these interest rates aren't going to get better, but sure enough, 7 years later, 8 years later, they actually are better. So we really should jump on this. And then, like Dr. Jablonski said, we can make sure that we have the capital reserve so that in 5-10 years, when solar prices come down and, things are more favorable, we're in a good position to take advantage of that.
So Erin, as our treasurer, would you recommend the 8 million?
I know this is going to blow people's minds, but I actually would because of what we'll be able to do in the future. And because if we kill our capital account, we know for
No,
sure we
yeah.
will have jinxed
You
ourselves.
don't ever want to do that.
Yeah.
So is the board comfortable making a decision tonight then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. So would we like to amend the motion? Do we need to include the?
I was gonna say, you can make as part of the motion, you can decide what amount.
Would you like to amend your motion, Aaron?
Sure, yeah. Pursue the $8 million.
Option A.
Yeah, sorry.
Option
Going back to my
Well,
thing.
then-
Option,
5.
scenario 5.
5. Yep, scenario 5.
You still good with seconding, Karen? All right. Same people, Paula. Any other discussion before we take action? All right. Roll call vote, Paula, please.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
Ms. Stanton,
Yes.
Dr. Unsicker Fisera,
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Browse,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jamal.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Moving on to new business, and just before I forget, there is an item on the agenda that we have pulled, that would be the MOU, so we're not going to
Yes. Item D.
consider that tonight. But-
Item D.
Right. But we will go on with the exception to policy 707, Dr. Pollinchow.
This is for Milton Area School District to continue to use our Pollen Complex and waiving the fees as their facilities are under construction.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, Paul.
Ms. Stanton,
Yes.
Dr. Unsicker Fisera,
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Browse,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jamal.
Yes.
Mr. Rowe.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on, election of PSBA officers. And apparently that's me, so somebody give me some guidance. Do we have a ballot somewhere?
We can just hand them over. to
you
Paula,
have
I
hand them
think.
over?
Yeah.
I don't have.
You don't get to vote then.
That's fine. I'm
Are you
perfectly
sure
fine
you
with
didn't
that.
Out there.
It's just a little white piece of paper. Paula gave it to you
No,
earlier.
he didn't get one.
Do we need to put our names on
He
them?
walked out.
I did. I didn't
No,
know.
I
I think you have to, but
It wasn't at his desk.
We are. Well, they already voted. I didn't vote yet. Sorry.
Oh, are we supposed to put our names on?
I think I would be on that.
I don't think you have to.
When I vote
I
online,
did
I
it
don't
wrong.
have to.
Sorry.
Yeah,
No, you did it right.
Do we need to tally those down? Or do that later?
that we probably for the best. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially
Go
the
ahead.
first one.
Do we have all of them?
Everybody but mine, since I don't have one.
Oh.
Just
Just use a different color
throw
pen
my
on
vote
somebody
onto
else's.
whatever the majority is. I don't know any of these people.
Sabrina or David.
Dr.
The first.
Very efficient. Excellent.
Okay.
That reaction.
Do you want me to read
I'll
them?
read the-
Since we
I wanna
typically do
see it.
elections out loud, I'll read them and then do you want to keep track? Okay. First ballot here for president, Sabrina Backer, vice president, Allison Mathis, and all three trustees, Fryricks, Lakoff, and Maines. Second ballot here, president Sabrina Backer, vice president Mathis, and all three trustees. For those of you playing along at home, there's only one vice president candidate, and you can vote for up to 3 of the 3 trustees. So I'll just read the president. Next one, Sabrina Backer for president, and all the rest. Next one, Sabrina Backer, and all the rest. Next one, Sabrina Backer, and all the rest. And finally, Sabrina Backer and all the rest. So that actually looks pretty unanimous. So I will cast that ballot online. Thanks, everybody.
Good. Next up is policies for first reading. Anybody like to comment on any of those?
We are doing a lot of updating
I see
and Jen's really racing through. So motion to approve these policies for first reading.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'll just call to everyone's attention that many of these involve integrating language about trauma-informed approaches, which comes to us from the state.
Paula?
Dr. Unsicker Fisera,
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Browse,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
Ms. Stanton.
Yes.
Motion
And moving on to item E. Ms. Moser,
Yes,
job descriptions.
sure. Actually, items E and F reflect updated revised job descriptions, clarifying language, and just, as I say, kind of itemizing some specific skills and tasks involved for both the supervisor of buildings and grounds and the maintenance positions. Brought forward for approval tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think it's a good idea. We do these every once in a while
I do
anyway.
too.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote on these separately or can we combine them? Separately, please, Paula.
Buildings and Grounds Supervisor,
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Rouse,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski.
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
Ms. Stanton,
Yes.
Dr. Unsicker Fisera.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion to approve the maintenance skilled labor job description.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, Paula, please.
Mrs. Rouse,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
Ms. Stanton,
Yes.
Dr. Unsicker Fisera.
Yes.
And Dr. Zimmerman.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. On to board information. I do not have a board president's report tonight. Dr. Pollenchak.
Information has gone out to the community about the Pennsylvania School Climate Survey that will be administered between September 13th and the 24th. Each school is setting a particular time or class or teacher who would be giving that survey in class. The survey will be available for staff and parents on our website, and information about that will go out on Monday morning. We, certainly hope for everybody to participate. This gives us a good sense of how students are feeling in terms of their physical safety, their emotional safety, how they feel supported, and how staff feels in that same way, and parents. And taking that information, we can build upon the areas that are strengths, but it certainly will reveal areas where we have some areas for growth and improvement. And we'll work with the administrative team to put those plans in place throughout the school year. I also want to thank the PSA for all of the help that they have provided to both Kelly Elementary and Lintown with volunteers to help with lunch. As I've mentioned before, we have 20% more students in the school, and getting them spaced out as best as possible, particularly for lunch, is really one of our goals, and we need more manpower in order to do that, to supervise the kids. And we're still working on solutions on how to be able to accommodate using other spaces in the building and potentially outside, but always want to be prepared for what the weather can do. We think about that right now and it's temperate, but pretty soon it'll be kind of cold. So we want to make sure that the kids are comfortable, but also safe. As COVID cases come up in schools, we're notifying just that individual school community once all the contacts or potential contacts have been contacted by either the principal or the school nurse to let them know what they need to do. It's a different situation if students are vaccinated or not vaccinated, but certainly making sure that students are masked and at least 3 feet apart makes a big difference in the number of students that are identified, and bearing in mind that that's missing at least a week and a half of school. So that can be very disruptive to their learning. I'm very pleased to see that we're making progress on the HVAC modernization. It's really not just about air conditioning. It's really about making sure that we have equipment that's up to date, that it's energy efficient. And by being able to condition the air, our bipolar ionization and just all the regular filtration that we do will certainly improve. And in a time past COVID, when you're just worrying about a common cold and flu or allergies or mold, anything that we can do to treat the air so that it's healthier for all of our students and staff will be better in the long run for the district. So I'm pleased about the steps we're taking to make towards that investment. And Also, kind of building off of something that Mr. Popowitz had shared about staff putting in their absences electronically. We just began with parents being able to email in their absence notes, receiving a robocall, letting them know that their child's absent and prompting them to do that. Certainly, parents are still welcome to call and would encourage that if it's going to be an extended absence or there's some special circumstances that they make contact with the office. Otherwise, we'll reach out if it's been a few days. But we're hopeful that this, convenient step will make sure that we have all of those absences accounted for, and sometimes can be a little bit easier for parents to just shoot off an email than to stop and make a phone call, as they can do that at any time. And that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Any board liaison or committee reports?
The education committee met on Tuesday. And we went over the PSSA test results and also learned about the science and math curricula and the ways that those will be aligned K-12. It's some exciting stuff, good plans in place.
Anything else? Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes the revised personnel report. Are there any items which would like to be held out separately before we vote?
On the personnel report, I would like to hold out the head boys basketball coach position.
Very well. Anything else? All right, Paula, could we have a roll call vote on the consent agenda absent the boys head basketball coach positions?
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski,
Yes.
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Ms. Stanton,
Yes.
Dr. Unsicker Fisera,
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Rouse,
Yes.
motion carried.
And could we have then a roll call vote for the head basketball coach position?
Let's see, Dr. Jablonski,
Yes.
Mr. Bell,
No.
Ms. Stanton,
Yes.
Dr. Unsicker Fisera,
No.
Dr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Rouse,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you, Paul. And I think that brings us to director's comments. Let's break with tradition and start on this side. Tara.
I appreciate all the principals and administrators' comments at the beginning. It's nice to hear the importance of community outreach. It's nice to hear, people coming together to support, tragedy as well as successes. I like to hear about teachers kind of going out on their own and being innovative and finding things that are new and awesome for the kids. So the hydroponic thing is cool. Plus I love gardening. So I'm excited about the school climate survey to see where we're at. I think it's a good way to let the kids have a voice too. And I don't know, a lot of good things going on. I appreciate all the people that are having to deal with the masking and unmasking and all the different things. And it's nice to hear our school district kind of did that seamlessly. So I appreciate that because I think that comes from good leadership too. So
I'd like to ditto everything that Tara said also. Chris, I'm really glad and thankful that your staff took the initiative to come up with that booklet. I think that's very vital. In fact, I think maybe there is something at the other building levels would be available, because I know they go in and talk to their counselors, principals on various things, not only death, but bullying or whatnot. I think if they could have something at their fingertips that they refer back to, because they're only with those people so many minutes or maybe an hour or two a day, just to refer back to, because it's vital. I mean, it is. You're talking about people moving away. My daughter moved away, so I can relate to that. Thank you.
Virginia.
I will echo some of what my colleagues have said. Especially to Mr. Roll, I really appreciated hearing about the important and careful work in helping those young kids with grief. That's part of the social emotional learning that we talk about all the time. And it's great to get this really impactful example of how that's happening. I'd also, as a person who lived in Minnesota for a time, like to make a plea that even when it does get cold, the kids could go outside. There's no bad weather, there's just bad clothes.
Amen.
So, just let them wear their coats and keep eating outdoors, unless it's like below zero. That's all I have to say.
John?
Happy to hear from Ms. Reber about the memorial in the hallway, and I'm going to check that out. Has that been shared on any social media platforms for the school?
We will tomorrow.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Anybody that's ever seen John's socks knows about that clothes.
They're warm.
I also want to echo I've just been so impressed actually by the Kelly counselors, literally from the start of the shutdown. They have been just such a bright spot on social media. And I'm sure that carries through, and it's obvious that it did and has. So kudos to them. Thank you to them. I follow them. Super psyched about Dragon Dash, as always. And, hearing about George, the teachers helping each other with technology and different methodologies and pedagogies is just crucial, right? But it's good we take it for granted, but it doesn't happen everywhere. So that's great to hear. And I just like to say, I'm really impressed that the administrative staff at the high school have begun twinning. I think that's great. That you guys are
It's not
really,
even planned.
you're
I mean,
clearly
I
gelling.
mean, even Eric and I didn't connect. And
Right? I just, so impressed. But on a serious note, I'm just really grateful that we are further down the road on improving the HVAC system and the air filtration in particular. And I know for all of the reasons that that's important, but I think about in particular our friends at Kelly at Lintown who've really struggled, just the children and the faculty and the staff. And I'm grateful that we're getting to a point where we can see the forest through the trees or the cool air through the steam, as the case may be. So let's get moving on that.
Mrs. Moser, anything additional?
Yeah, I too jotted down, Chris. Thank you for sharing the social emotional learning pieces that are going on at Kelly. That is a high priority in the district, and it's wonderful when we see and hear of specific things that our staff are doing. Paula, I'm a Sue Gemberling fan. The displays are always amazing. She just has phenomenal creative talent. To your point, I do remember where I was on September 11th. I was in Lewisburg High School, and the late Mr. Timothy Jarrett came running into the office to let us know that this all had occurred. And it was very, very surreal to deal with it in a school setting. And the onslaught of parents that wanted to immediately come to school and take their children home with them. We had some real logistical challenges, as well as just grasping what this event in itself was going to be and how it was going to play out. So it is very real, and it's in many ways hard to imagine it's been the passage of time that it has been. But again, Sue's creative talents with her displays down outside of the library have almost become an expectation by the month that she'll have, something wonderful to share. So I like drawing attention to it and the opportunity for more of you to see the really good work she does from the role that she plays here in the high school. Thank you.
Paula, John, anything?
Nothing to add.
Dr. Falchuk? Aaron?
Every time we make a really big financial decision, I have like real big feelings about it. And we've talked about how much we need air conditioning. I was just reminded the other day about summer of 2018 and how lucky we were that we weren't Milton or any of the other surrounding school districts. We need modern dehumidification. We need this. And these seem to maybe people watching that they go really fast, but these decisions are like, we have this in advance. We're looking at things. We mull over these things. We mull over every decision that we make, even the ones that end up seeming contentious. I can't emphasize that enough, that we don't just show up here and like this, right? We sit with these things. The one I did want to call out the library nook that in New York for Mrs. Underhill. That was a really amazing story. My kids loved her. So and all the other good things. I want to say, Stephanie, you mentioned there are so many unsung heroes. Gina Stockdale, you mentioned. I worked with her for a decade. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She is one of those types of people, like who is a critical linchpin in whether or not something is going to work or not. And I don't know if you all recall that when we just had graduation in Soka, right? Like a big part of that is just making sure it all comes off smoothly. And so it's really nice to just hear that we appreciate it. I mean, there's people throughout the community that are like that, but just that they're willing to give the time and make another organization have a really great event. I mean, Lewisburg just has it, right? So we should feel very lucky for that.
Thank you. I would just say I'll carry on with what you said. It didn't occur to me that people might think that that was a quick decision, but this is literally my coming December will be my 6th full year on the board, and we have talked about HVAC upgrades every single year since, and it was very clearly being talked about before I got on the board. And I will admit that I never thought we'd get to the point where we are, because every time we've looked at it, it just wasn't fiscally possible or responsible. So I'm very happy that we are where we are and we're moving in that direction. And I really look forward to seeing the 9/11 display, because that's pretty cool. And it's easy to forget that, like Paula pointed out, that the kids nowadays just have no recollection because they literally weren't around. So it's good to impart that history. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. Citizens' comments to boards on non-agenda items from either those present or those online.
No. We do not have any comments from online.
Okay, then I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Hi.
Oh, we have to vote.
Hi, yes.
Just assume. that's-
Anybody opposed?
Nay.